What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Mekanism. And today, guys, we're going to be setting up 5 times ore processing, which is the highest tier of ore processing that Mekanism has to offer. Now, although it is very rewarding in that you are going to get the most bang for your buck in terms of resources, it is also very expensive and time-consuming to set up. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of warning for that. This is going to be a little bit of a longer episode, but by the end of it, you should be well versed in the ways of setting this up. Now, like all the other ore processing setups, we are going to be building upon the 4 times ore processing that we already have, which is what's right in front of me, but this is going to be more expensive than all the stuff we've already set up combined. It is absurd how expensive this is just to get one more ingot from each piece of ore, but eventually it is worth it. So we are going to have to go through a lot of stuff today. I already did craft everything we need just because this would be an extremely full chest if I didn't do that, and it would take us forever to get through it. So hopefully that's okay for you guys. You probably have NEI or something along those lines to look at the recipes, but you still should get a general idea of how expensive this is just by looking at all the machines in here. These are not cheap. They do require a lot of stuff for them. Now, we do need to set up a second thermal evaporation plant. Eventually, we're going to need a lot more of those for whatever we're going to do later in the series, but we already have one of the thermal evaporation plants getting us brine, which is getting turned into hydrogen chloride. Now, that is what we are using in the chemical injection chamber or basic injecting factory, whatever you've upgraded it to over here. But I would advise you to set up a second one because you're going to need a lot more hydrogen chloride coming in, because that is eventually what is going to get turned into what we're using today, which is going to be sulfuric acid, and that is going to go in the chemical dissolution chamber. So that's pretty much why I would set up a second one. You're probably going to need it for a lot more generation of the hydrogen chloride. You could make it work if you wanted to split what you have already, but we're going to be setting up a second one today. So that's what all this stuff here is for. That should get us roughly to like a size maybe 13, maybe 12 to anywhere from 12 to 14 on the height for the thermal evaporation plant. I'm going to be doing that off camera in a little bit because we've already done it, but I just want to let you guys know that we're going to be doing that. All the stuff over here is what we're going to be using to actually get the hydrogen chloride again. I actually think I'm missing an electrolytic separator right now. I don't know if I have another one up here. Yeah, it's not looking like it. So I think we need another electrolytic separator just because we do need to get some extra hydrogen for this. Then the rest of the stuff is going to be for the actual 5 times ore processing, which is going to be right over here. We've got the chemical dissolution chamber, which we're going to need. That's where the sulfuric acid is going to go. Then we have the chemical washer, which we're just going to be putting water into that eventually. And then we have the chemical crystallizer, which is going to be the last step that we're going to be adding on today. And that's going to filter into the rest of this. Along with that, we also have the chemical oxidizer, and we have the rotary condensator, and pretty much all the rest of the machines in here, which I can't even grab all of them. I don't have enough inventory space, but those are going to be used to turn the gunpowder all the way into the sulfuric acid by combining it with the hydrogen chloride. And then we've got the 3 quantum entangloporters, which I'm going to be using just to transport the stuff around the base a little bit easier. Now, these are probably the most expensive thing that we're going to be using today. So if you're not going to use these and you're just going to transport it using pipes, tubes, whatever you want to do, then it is a little bit cheaper, but still it is kind of expensive. So I guess I should go and start setting up the thermal evaporation plant so we can get working on this. I am going to be setting it up right near the first one that we did, which is over here. Pretty much just going to be setting it up over here, but I have more space because this is where we're going to be working today. So I will hop off camera, I will set this up, get it heated, and then we will jump back. Okay guys, so the thermal evaporation plant is done being set up, and then I went and set up the rest of the process to get hydrogen chloride, which should be coming out right here. Now, none of this is actually running right now. I don't have any power running to it, but we will get that set up in just a little bit when we put up the quantum entangloporters, which are going to actually be bringing the power over here. I could connect it to the power that's coming over here, but I thought, you know what, we're going to have a quantum entangloporter coming over here anyway, so we can just bring power in that and save a little bit of cable. So now that we have the hydrogen chloride coming out, the next step is to make the sulfuric acid. Now, the sulfuric acid is what we are going to be using the gunpowder for. I briefly talked about this before, but we're going to be getting it from the setup that we worked on last episode, which was the mob farm. Now, we're actually getting a decent amount of drops from this. Obviously, we will have use for the rotten flesh eventually with ethylene and power, but we have a fair bit of gunpowder, and I will continue working on this to make it more efficient so that we actually get as much gunpowder as we need, but we have a relatively decent supply right now. So I think what we're going to do is set this up so that it automatically sorts it and puts it to a quantum entangloporter. That's going to bring it over there, and then we'll just open up this bin for something else that we might eventually need. So we can grab this bin out right now just so that we don't actually have anywhere for the gunpowder to go. And yeah, we got some accidentally, but we should still have a gunpowder filled bin in here somewhere. There we go. So we have to come over here and get down to where we pull the items out from the hopper. Now, one thing I can note is that I do have a crushing system in here hooked up to a hopper timer over here. Just a little bit of a side note, a little tangent, because mobs do fall with armor on, and that means that they don't get nearly close enough to dying. So I do have to crush them, and we get witches in here occasionally, which die to the crushing here. But I do not have a way to kill these little zombie guys yet, so I will have to deal with them soon. But I guess for now, we can just go to the music and sounds and turn down hostile creatures because they're a little bit annoying while we're working over here. So what we need to do is sort the gunpowder so that nothing else is interrupted, but the gunpowder goes to the quantum entangloporter. So we're going to break this right here, and we're going to put down a logistical sorter right on the end of this. Now, there's no filters in there right now. There's no default, and it auto ejects stuff. So it should be good right now to just work normally. And if we were to take this out and, oh, you know what? There's nowhere for the gunpowder to go, though. That's right. So if we were to come up here and let's say we were to grab out one rotten flesh, throw it in there, we should hear the click and it should make its way over to this bin right here. Yep. So there we go. So what we need to do is set up the quantum entangloporter, which we can actually put pretty much right down here. There's no need for it to go anywhere else. And we can throw that right there, and then we can put this to a different setting. Now, I'm going to have to finagle with the settings a little bit just because we might need a lot of different channels for this. But this one that we're going to be making is going to be, let's just say, gunpowder. So we're going to have gunpowder for that one. We can check that on there. We can click that, and now it is set to that. And the only configuration that matters is going to be items for this one over here at least. Now, we can do something with the wrench if we wanted to see. It's actually kind of hard to do because of the side we're putting it in on, but I think this should be, assuming this right here is the front face, it should be this face right here. That's an input. So, yep, that one's the one that we need. So that's all good to go. And we can turn auto eject on. This one really doesn't need to eject anything, so it's fine. Yes, more creepers. That's always good. So it should be going in here perfectly fine. And all we have to do, oh, you know what? We actually can't put it right here. We need to move it down one. Okay. So the reason behind that actually is, let's see which one of these. I think it was this one. Let's throw this one down and see. Okay, so we're going to set it to gunpowder, and we're going to actually have to set the top one to this with eject on. The reason behind that is because we need to throw down a logistical transporter, and we need to color this one differently. So throw down a logistical transporter and turn it to dark blue. And then we come over here, new filter, item stack. We can put in gunpowder in there, and we can set the minimum to 0, maximum to 0. That's not on. If you're curious what that is, it's pretty much saying the minimum and maximum it's going to send at a time. But that's really irrelevant to us. We don't have that on right now because it can send as much as it gets whenever it gets it. So it's pretty much just going to be one at a time. And we're going to set that to dark blue. So now gunpowder should be going into the quantum entangloporter. So it should be able to get pulled out of here and... oh, you know what? That should be input. What am I saying? Okay, so there it goes. It is now in there as dark blue. And we can fill this back in because we don't need to get down here anymore. Yep, and we got a lot of creepers in there that time. And I don't think we're actually going to be able to place this block down back here because of these little guys, but I'll worry about that later. So now we can come over here and start working with some of the new machines that we're going to get. So what we need to do is take the gunpowder we're getting, and if you don't already have gunpowder, we can go over this really quick how to get it if you didn't see last episode. You can easily do this just by looking at the recipes for this. Crusher turns to flint, and if you don't have flint, you can do purification chamber for gravel, and if you need to get gravel, then you can do sand, and if you need sand, you can... oh no, you know what? We need to go gravel, crusher for cobblestone. Okay, so it's a very long process if you don't have the gunpowder straight up. It does take a lot of power, and this whole setup takes enough power already, which is why I did the mob farm, but you do have the option to do that if you'd like. So the gunpowder is going to be coming out over here. This is going to be the output for the hydrogen chloride, and we are going to be combining these two in a chemical injection chamber. So that'll be right here. This is the same thing that we turned into a factory out there to start our 4x ore processing. So we can throw that down right here. And this is going to be very messy over here. I'll work on making it look a little bit nicer later, but I'm not too worried about it. So the chemical injection chamber is going to go right here. The gunpowder is going to get put in up there. Hydrogen chloride is going to fill it normally. and we'll be good to go. So we need to set the side config so that this is going in here, and I think we actually need to set this to pull. Yeah, so we need to set this to pull on the front over here. So yeah, so it's pulling out the hydrogen chloride over here, it's inserting it into this over here, and I have to come in here. I actually don't think we need to actually set any of this right here. Yeah, okay, so this will be fine bringing it in here. Now we need to get the input for the items, which can be right on the top. We might have to move this around a little bit once we get later into the setup, but we should be able to put this down right here. We should be able to set this to the frequency of gunpowder, and then we should be able to come over to the items config and set it to output and auto eject. So gunpowder is now going in there from this. We can also go over to energy and set this to output on that. So if we do get energy from this, it'll start powering this right away, and then we can pull power from somewhere else on here. We can just wire this up and over and get power to all the rest of this stuff, which we can do in a little bit. Now the reason I say we'll do that in a little bit, we can actually do it right now if we want to, because we're gonna have a quantum entangloporter over here somewhere too, somewhere along the lines of right about here. So we might as well throw one down right there and change this so that it is the side config as, oh, I guess this should just be input for energy, and no, that is not correct. Huh. Why are these not connecting to this right now? We might have to break one of these and reconnect it. Huh. Energy, input on all of these sides, and yet it's still not accepting any energy. I don't get why it's not doing it. What's going on over here? Okay, side config. Is this set to any? No, it is not. There we go. Oh, now all the sides are connected. Okay, a little bit of my mistake there. My bad. Okay, so this should be all good to go now. This should be getting power from all the sides that it needs it from, and we should be good to head back over. So now we should be having power over here too. All of these machines should be running in 1 second if we hook this up. So we can hook up universal cable there, and then we can set this to output on all the sides. So there we go. Now all these are getting power. These do not have any energy upgrades in them, so they're going to burn through energy right now. They don't have speed upgrades either, though, so I'm not super worried about it. So this one is getting the sodium and the chlorine, and we should be able to set this to pull out the chlorine over here. Yep, there we go. So that should be filling this up with the chlorine. You do have to orient these a certain way just because you need it to be pulling out of the correct side. So that should be good now. Okay, so I hopped off camera real quick and I just made sure everything was working properly in here and gave it a little bit of time to run. So we just switched this to pull. This one over here is set to pull. You should be able to hear that all these things are running now, and we actually do need to change a little bit of this. So we're not going to be using the oxygen, so this needs to be dumping excess. And over here, we are not going to be using the sodium, so this needs to be on dumping excess too, just so that these can continue running. Now, this is running right in here, and it is pulling out the hydrogen chloride into here, and whatever gunpowder we had in here was turned into sulfur dust. Now, sulfur dust is pretty much the same thing as sulfur, so we're going to be putting this, if you look up here, if we look at uses, this is going to be turned into sulfur dioxide, which is going to be done in the chemical oxidizer. So we've got the chemical oxidizer right here. And I'm curious how I'd like to do this, just with how I want to put it somewhere. So I think we want to put it, let's put it right over here, and let's start wrapping it around the room. So we can pull out of here. It's an item, so we need a, where is it, logistical transporter. And we're going to be pulling it out the side here. So we do not want any connection over here. And we want to actually set this so that it is output out that side and nothing out this side, with auto eject being on. So we need to make sure that it can go in here now too. So I assume we are going to need to rotate this a little bit. So let's change the modes to rotate, and there we go. So we flipped it so that that face right there, the front face, which you can see what it looks like right there, is going to be accepting this, and then we're going to need to get some power to this, and it is going to give us our sulfur dioxide. So we should be able to pull our power right down through here and bring it over the basic universal cable. We're going to be running really low on power until I get the ethylene setup going again, but this should be running now. I will add the upgrades in off camera, but there we go. So we've got sulfur dioxide in there. So that's good. It's making a little bit of a weird noise, but that's perfectly fine. Okay guys, so we are back. I do apologize for cutting so much in this video, but I actually just ran into something that's a little bit buggy that I'm going to tell you guys about that I had to work through. So we finished off here and we had the chemical oxidizer, which was producing sulfur dioxide from the sulfur dust, and that was all well and good, but then getting the sulfur dust out of here was actually causing a problem. So we input the items in the front, and then we're supposed to pull the gas out the back with basic pressurized tubes or whatever pressurized tube you like. But this was actually not allowing it to do that. It was connecting, it was set to pull, it had a perfect inventory for it to go to in the chemical infuser. Everything was fine, but it wasn't pulling it out. So I went and made a basic gas tank, and this is actually working as throughput. It might as well be a pressurized tube, except it'll add a little bit of a buffer if we ever need that. Not necessary, but if you're running into any issues with being able to pull anything out of the chemical oxidizer, try using a basic gas tank and then pulling from there, or automatically dumping into your infuser. Also, another thing I want to note is we have a line of oxygen coming right here. It is coming from this electrolytic separator, which is producing the hydrogen for the hydrogen chloride. They're both on dumping excess, and the reason that this is fine is because if we had one on dumping excess, it would be running constantly anyway, and if we had the other one on dumping excess, it's really irrelevant. So we're actually getting enough out of this, killing two birds with one stone. You don't have to do this, you could make a second one, but I'm doing it with this just to save a little bit of power and a little bit of resources, at least for the time being. If there is an issue with this, then I will switch it out, but for now it should be fine, just to show you guys how it works. So we're now producing sulfur trioxide, and we're really nearing the end of this chain where we can start getting this over to the machines that are actually going to have the ores in them. But the last thing we need to do is pull out the rotary condensator, and we need to get some water vapor. So I do have another pump. This is like the third pump we've used today, and we're going to be putting what we have in here, which is the sulfur trioxide, and we do need to get some pressurized tube down there, and we need to pull it out. And it's just occurring to me now that it might actually run into this over here. So I don't know if we can have these pipes running adjacent to each other is one slight issue. So what we might need to do is take the universal cable, run it down there, break that one, and then pull this down. And ooh, there is a little bit of a hole down there. We can fill that in. This place looks atrocious, by the way. This area back here just looks awful. But you know what? We'll cover it up, and no one will be the wiser. Okay, so we're pulling this out here, and this is going to be going to a chemical infuser, which I want to put pretty much right here if I can. So I guess we can, actually, you know what, we can put it, yeah, we can put it right over here. So we'll take the last chemical infuser that we have, which is right here, and we'll throw it right down over here. Now we're going to take this, and we're going to bring up the pressurized tube, pull it over here, and we should be able to set this to pull, and it is now pulling out and inputting the sulfur trioxide into the chemical infuser. So we're going to have to open up a little bit of space over here too, getting the nice lag whenever I break blocks with Mekanism stuff. But we are going to be inputting water vapor over here, and that's pretty much just going to require us to have water and combine that with the rotary condensator, and that'll get us water vapor, and that's what we input in there, which is why I'm opening up a little bit of room over here just so that we have some room to throw down a pump. We're going to have to wire power over here, and then we'll be good. So if we're bringing the water vapor in there, it's going to connect to there. We got to get the rotary condensator, which is right here. Not sure what the output is on this thing. So is the output on the back? Can we rotate this? Toggle operation. Interesting. Okay, so I want to see if the output's on the back on this thing. So I guess we can actually break this and just throw it down and give it a little once over. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be one going in one side, one going out the other. So we're going to have to make it a little bit bigger over here, like so. Expand it a little bit, and we're going to put this right over like that, and then we're going to rotate it. So we're going to change this to rotate, and we need to flip it over here. No, there we go. Okay, so we flip it over there, and then flip it over there, flip it again. Okay, so we're pulling out this size, and then you can see this one's actually a little bit bigger than this. So this is where the gas is going to be coming out of. This is where the fluid is going to be going into it. We're going to set this to pull, so we got to change the modes again. Set that to pull just to be safe. And then over here, we're going to bring power to a pump, which will be right here. Power can probably come somewhere right over here. So we can change this back to rotate now and bring it right there. And then we can just pull out and go over. So this will be the mechanical pipe right here. And it should be able to just go like that. And it should be able to go into the front of this. So Oh, wait, this is the chemical crystallizer. What am I talking about? Okay, that needs to be it. Stupid InventoryTweaks is messing me up here. Okay, so we need to now set this to rotate again. Oh, it was already on rotate. We need to set that to rotate, and then we need to flip this. No, like that. There we go. Okay, so it should be good. They're connecting now, so the liquid's going in this side. The gas is coming out that side. That's all good. So all we need to do is get power over here. So we're going to run it like this. It's got to go under this too because we need power going over here. Nope, that's pressurized tube. This is all pressurized tube. I am losing my mind with all of these cables. There we go, universal cable. They all look the same in your inventory, which I kind of hate. And then this will just bother me, so we're gonna get rid of that right there. And we're gonna run it under this, and then it needs to connect back over to the rest of our power, which can just be run over here. Okay, so universal cable all the way over. That should be good. This should be getting power. It's coming in here. And now we need to get this to actually be processing it. So we're going to toggle the operation, which should be getting us water vapor. You can see it now has the water going in there, water vapor coming out there. It's going over here, which is creating sulfuric acid, which is what we need. This is what we've been working towards for probably close to 20 minutes now. Okay guys, so now we have the sulfuric acid and we need to pull that out of the chemical infuser over here. So I actually have this all hooked up. You can see it running right here. It's this nasty yellowy green gas that's running through the pressurized tube. So we have it pulling out the front. You do need to set it to pull like with all of these for the gases. And then it is going over to the quantum entangloporter set to the frequency of gunpowder. Now the reason we can do that is because we are not transporting any other gas on this quantum entangloporter frequency. We are doing the hydrogen chloride on the other frequency, but this one is fine for this gas. So that's all we have to do over here. The whole setup is done. Now the last thing that we need to do is go over and finish the setup on this side. So right here we've got the quantum entangloporter, which is actually hooked up to the chemical dissolution chamber. So this is the first one in the setup. I hooked this up because it's a little bit different, and I wanted to be able to show you guys without spending too long on it how it works. So unlike most of the other ore processing steps that are offered by Mekanism, this one has fixed inputs and outputs. So the input right now for the sulfuric acid is going to be on this side. It's hard to show, but I guess I can kind of, let me set this to items. It is on the smaller of the two squares that are highlighted on here. This one's bigger. This is where the slurry is going to come out. It's going to be out a mechanical pipe, whereas this one is smaller and it's going to be going in on that. So once we have the ore slurry, which is going to be coming out of this side right here, out of the chemical dissolution chamber, we need to put down the chemical washer. Now this is pretty much just going to be using water to wash the ore slurry for us. So when we place it down, it again has fixed inputs and outputs. So it is going to have, right when you place it down, the left side is going to be the ore slurry input, and the right side is going to be for the mineral flow coming out of it. Now you're going to be using the top input for water that goes in here. So this should be all good right now. All we're going to have to do is make sure it has power, and we're going to have to get water going into the top of it. Now we might need to move this power cord right here just a little bit, but we're going to take and pull using, I guess I'm going to have to make a couple other mechanical pipes, but we're going to be pulling using the same water, at least for the time being, that we are getting right over here, and we're going to make sure it goes in up top over here. So I think what we might do is shift this power up one, right, for these 3 blocks right here so we can get that in there. So let's get out our universal cable, shift the power up one right there and right there, break this. Gosh, I'm getting so much lag now that we're working with all this stuff. But we're going to throw down the mechanical pipe up there, run it in here, and we actually need to go make some more. So let's grab out 4 of these, and well, at least we have 1 bucket on us right now. We can make another bucket if we need it, but I think actually 8 mechanical pipes should be good enough. So we can come back over here and we can hook these up. So we can just run this as long as we make sure that this isn't taking any liquid, any fluids. Let's just set all of these to none because we're not using fluids over here. It should be using, yeah, it should be using gas. So we're going to pull this all the way over, and this should be a non-issue right here. I am going to fix this though, just because. There we go. Okay, so we don't want anything on that one. So we should now have water going in there. That should be all good. And it's a little difficult to get in and out of here now. So let's see. Can we throw a mechanical pipe down up there? That doesn't make it much. Yeah, okay, now we can get in and out. Okay, so we'll break that. Now we should be good over here. We can fill in these so it looks a little bit nicer. And the last step in this whole thing is going to be the chemical crystallizer. So we're going to throw this down, throw down the chemical crystallizer, and this one should now be able to accept. So we have the side configs on this one, which is actually nice. And we're going to be setting it to go to this one. So this one is not going to be accepting any more items from the same side that it was before. So we had the input coming in from before on the back of this for the quantum entangler, but it's actually going to have an input coming in the side now. And this one is going to be outputting out the side, energy in the top, gas on that side. It should be fine, even if these are a little bit messed up. But this should be outputting a liquid, I want to say. Yeah, the crystallizer, no, it actually should be outputting, yeah, the crystallizer should be getting a liquid. So I guess it's gas, but whatever. So we should be able to actually grab some ore from over here for now, so I don't have to mess with the settings too much on the entangler porters, but I should have some ore right here. So we should be able to throw that in and test it out. Okay, so keep in mind it's a little bit slow, but should be pulling out here. Now we have the iron slurry, which should be going out into this one over here. An issue might be if it auto ejects. I don't know if this necessarily auto ejects into these. Okay guys, so I finally got everything straightened out over here. The only issue was not actually that these were right next to each other and couldn't automatically output, but it was that the chemical dissolution chamber was actually backwards for me. So this side, the input does look a little bit weird. It is a little bit too big, but this is the side, the left side when you place it down is going to be the side that you actually input the sulfuric acid on, and the other side is where you are going to be pulling out the slurry that you're getting, and it's going to be the same for all of these. So it's going to be left input, right output when you place it down and it's facing you, and now everything is running great. So to show you guys, we can throw the iron ore in here. No upgrades in there yet, so energy is going to be an issue, and same with the speed, but it now outputs into this. The iron slurry is slowly getting worked through over here. There's a lot in here. And then that is going over into the chemical crystallizer as a clean iron slurry, which is then going and pretty much being put in there. We can watch over here. It is being put in there as, come on, there we go. So an iron crystal, which then runs through here like shards and pretty much like everything else, and you will get your ingot out at the end. So this is awesome. It's a very long setup. I'm gonna have to do a lot of work off camera, putting in upgrades. It's literally gonna take hundreds of upgrades because of how many machines we have today, hundreds of every type of upgrade because of how many we have. But hopefully you found the video informative and entertaining. If you did, please feel free to give it a like, as it does help me out a lot. And I do apologize if it was a little bit jumpy or a little bit confusing. There was a lot to get through today, and even I am not an expert when it comes to doing this stuff. But yeah, hopefully you guys found it at least slightly useful, and I will talk to you guys later.